All right, all set?
Yep.
All right, good evening. The time is 6:30. You're at the Abington Conservation Commission meeting. First item is discussion on building permit located at 380 Brockton Ave. Is there anybody here from the property? All right, I'll give you a brief rundown. I think Jean, Lynn, and Rich, I think we were the only ones on the board. This came before us last year around this time. We issued an order of conditions for the property. It included some wetland replication that was supposed to be done for us to close out another order of conditions from the same property. And the property has since changed hands twice. So before I signed the building permit, I wanted to make sure that the property owner acknowledges the order of conditions, the replication that was supposed to be done before any construction was to take place. So I said before I sign the building permit, we need to acknowledge the order of conditions and we need to do a pre-construction meeting.
So did you reach out to them already, Paul?
Tony has, they picked up the order of conditions, correct? They're supposed to be here tonight?
Yeah, when I looked at the registry, I couldn't see that they recorded the notice of intent, the orders of conditions.
I found it.
Oh, you did? Okay. Mm-hmm. Did they record it for the last transaction?
Not for the last one, it was for the one between Fiore.
Yeah, I think it went from Fiore Cemento to CRF, I think is the, so.
I didn't look at that, but when I first looked up at it early in the year, I saw the most up-to-date order of conditions.
That's good. Well, at least if they pick them up, they know what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
But I think are you concerned that there was a property behind that they were supposed to do that replication at?
I just want to make sure it's the same, that property was sold with
this.
who was it, a
4-1
four unit?
Yeah.
I think it was. I just want to make sure it's all, I don't want to sign the permit and then the replication isn't done. So I mean.
Makes sense.
It's supposed to be a 4-to-1 replication.
Right.
It was something like that, yeah.
Yeah, right.
So I guess Tony, see if he can set up a pre-construction meeting with the owner and we can go out and make sure they're on board and they, acknowledge that they have to do the replication and that the footprint of the building, their plans are, do we have their plans to match up to what we approved last year? No, we're not gonna be able to look at it then.
So the order of conditions, I recall, that they were supposed to start the replication.
Supposed to be done in March.
Right. And then work would proceed.
Right.
Right.
Because there would be no way to do it'd be really difficult to do the replication after all the construction was done.
Correct.
There'd be no access to it.
Yep. Okay.
Are you looking for a motion?
So do we just put this on the agenda for next time?
Yeah, we can continue it and then hopefully we have the meeting between now and then and we can just, if not everybody can go to the pre-construction meeting, we can fill everybody in then. Like, see what you can do with the property owner, see if you can set something up in the next 2 weeks. Would someone want to make a motion to continue to October 25th?
We'll make a motion that we continue the discussion on the building permit for 380 Brockton Ave and not sign up on the building permit until we speak with the owner.
I'll second that. All those in favor? Aye. Unanimous. All right, next up, public complaint on sediment and possible filling of wetland at 18 Park Ave and 202 Center Ave. Lee, you want to get up here and just speak? You're the one that made the complaint, correct?
Yeah.
Everyone just...
Well, not a complaint, request, actually, because, excuse me.
Oh, sure.
Yep, just give me your name and address, please.
Lee Casey, 18 Park Ave, Abington. My thing is that I have a drainage ditch when my late husband and I bought the house in 1977. We told there was there was an easement on our property, part of our property and part of the other people's property, for the water to run up the drains up the street. This is always happens. And the one that's on Park Ave, there's a drain on both sides of the street, and then there's also a pipe that comes in from Center Ave. And then it runs also through, from the streetway. And the reason I know that is because somebody put a swimming pool in their land and they had to go around the piping that came down, so it comes all the way there. And it goes all the way out back into there's a neighbor at 208 Center Ave. Their land abuts mine because their land comes down this, and I have woods. Well, I don't have woods, they have woods. The woods goes up between 18 Park Ave and 34 Park Ave, so their land goes back there. And Barney Whalen used to own the house a long time ago. Well, he just moved recently. I'm assuming because I haven't seen him in a while, but he owned the land and didn't do anything with it, so it just always stayed wooded. In the last couple of months, I've noticed that when the water, we haven't had that much rain, and there's never really any water in the drain, in the ditch. It's mostly dry. But the water was now like puddling, like a little pond in the back of my yard, because the land that goes through the 208 that crosses over to the woods has gotten much more dirt into it. So like my land is like this, and now it's coming up like this. And it used to go this way and flow into the pond, out of Grove Pond. Now it's not able to do that. And like I said, we haven't had a lot of rain, but it's not a river. It's just from off the street. So I'm concerned about okay, so I'll say that in a minute, but the other thing that's happened, like 3 years ago, I asked the town if they would clean up the ditch because the sediments are getting higher and it's rising. In some spots a little bit lower than others, but it's definitely not flowing the way it used to flow. And the other thing that happened was instead of digging down, they dug it wider. So now my land is eroding. So I've had trees on the side and plants, they've all disappeared now. And it's just gonna get worse now that the water's just gonna be sitting there. So I'm concerned about that. I'm not saying that 208 is doing anything to it. I don't know for sure, but it's just really strange that in the last couple of months, I've noticed that it's definitely has more of a surface coming up to their property. So
you think they brought in fill?
I don't really know. I can't tell you that for sure. I haven't seen it, but I can see, you can definitely see that the water is not, like if you go out that way, it used to be able to see the ditch going through to the pond. It's not there anymore. So there's no place for the water to go.
So it's ponding on your property?
The pond is not, no.
No, I'm saying it's, when it rains,
Oh,
the
yes.
water is
Right.
ponding in
Yeah,
your property.
about a month ago, I noticed there was like a good-sized puddle forming in the back of my yard. You know. And then I can't mow my lawn because it's all wet up there, and it wasn't going anywhere. And before that, there was a lot of overgrowth that I couldn't see. Now it's down to the side and water. And I'm just concerned because we've been lucky not to have a hurricane. If we have a hurricane, it's definitely going to flood my yard because the water has no place to go. In the wintertime, when the snow melts, it also travels down that ditch. And it's just not going to have any place to go. It's just going to, my yard, I want to sell my house eventually. I don't want my yard to be all wet and flooded. But I haven't spoken to the neighbors. At one time, they were cleaning, I was mowing the lawn, and they had people out there working. And I said to them, you can't put stuff in here, pointing down. And that's when I knew that the ditch was still there. But now it's definitely filled in with dirt. And I don't know if that's just coming from, I don't know where, but it's risen. And it needs to be cleaned out. And like I said, it's not a river, so I don't know why. The highway department, when we first moved in, the highway department always took care of it. And they haven't done it for years now because they said they can't dig it or do anything with it. But it's just a ditch. It's just a ditch to drain the water.
Did you speak with the highway department?
Yeah, and they told me I had to speak to the conservation department. And somebody came down and they totally sort of agreed with me, but I haven't gone anywhere. So I think it's up to you to say, yes, this is the ditch, the highway department can take care of me. But it definitely is something that has to be addressed because I don't want to. And the other thing is, one time we had rain so hard that it didn't even go down the drain. The drains were like completely blocked and we had, so my lane goes like this, it slopes.
Right.
Um,
I'm familiar with
You went,
Park Ave.
are you live in Park Ave?
No, my daughter lives down on Park
Oh,
Ave.
okay, yep, so anyway, so it sloped, and what happened was the water could not go through the drainage thing, on the roads, that it just all flooded in, and that was the only year we got water in our basement, and that was like in the early, maybe 80s, 1980s, because it just had no place to go. It was such bad rainstorm.
Do you know if it's a town-owned drainage easement? Is there any paperwork on that shows that the town has
I
an
meant to look it up, we bought the house, and when we bought the house, that did say there was an easement from the town on it.
So there'd be something on a plan somewhere then that would show that?
Yeah.
It should be on your deed as well, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, it should be. If there's an easement,
Okay.
I believe so.
I used to have a map and it showed some sort of a line showing for the drainage.
I wonder if it will be on the assessor's map.
It should be, but it might not be. Did anybody go out to look at this, or
No.
Yeah, I
Yeah, Tim
Oh, you
did, and I did last week.
what'd you see?
I saw a lot of sediment in there, definitely down towards the end by the pond. It's definitely widened and basically filled in, but it could be sediment. I can't tell if 208 did any filling because there was really
It's
no.
just kind of weird that theirs filled in, mine didn't.
Right.
Mine's filled in, but not like that.
There was a lot of the sandy material, which is typically what you see from a catch basin from the street. So if those aren't cleaned, then that's just going to keep making its
Yes,
way
but it
down.
would come down, it has ways to travel.
Correct.
There's still a ways to get down to be more there than here.
Yeah.
That was my concern.
Question for you. I hate the word drainage ditch because it usually means, in our interpretation, man-made or otherwise, it's a stream.
It's man-made. It's not-
It doesn't matter to us.
Right.
Sorry, it's just the definition for us.
Right,
It's nothing, I understand what you're saying.
yeah.
But, does it, how long, is it connected, like all along? I haven't been there, so,
It looked like there was two catch basins, one across the street from Park Ave, then one closest to the stream area or the drainage ditch. And then it goes from the drainage ditch all the way out to the pond.
it goes into the pond.
It does, yep.
Okay, that makes sense,
But it is two catch basins that are feeding.
Yeah.
yeah.
But
But
didn't she also say that
It's coming, there's a
it
pipe
comes
also.
from Plymouth Street
So you
down?
can see, yep, it's coming from the street down, comes down that way, and then there's pipes coming this way, going this way, but there's also a pipe coming from Center Ave, there's another pipe coming this way.
Oh, and then it all just goes into that catch basin and then heads out.
Okay, so it must be catch basins that just feed
Yeah, it's gonna be
into that,
multiples,
so
yeah.
that must be town, obviously.
At least the catch basins, but it
Right.
depends how it's written on the deed
Right,
Yeah.
Right.
but the intent is the water will go to the
to the pond.
pond.
Is 208,
So, there is some concern for us too, that there's sediment going through
Correct.
that is going to the pond that shouldn't be going there.
I just have a question, is 208 the new house that was just?
No, it's right next to them, that was their land,
Okay,
208 sold
So-
the land and they built the new.
208's the big tall house?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Bobby Whalen used to live there? No, Bobby, okay.
And there's a,
Mass map or check out satellite views
Yeah.
and see if there's anything different. You said but it's only been in the past couple of months that
Yeah,
you've
and I could
noticed
have
it.
a couple months, like I said before, we haven't had any rain that I've even seen it happen, but there was one time we had a rainstorm and I was like surprised there was water out that way, and I don't want the lawn, and it was kind of like peeing.
Okay.
I could see it, and it's funny because it was like the grass was all matted down, like somebody had walked through it too, which was really weird, but, it was, and you can just walk right through it, it's all dry. It's like it's definitely like the land was like this, it went down, it was definitely a ditch about this wide, and now it's just like all covered, slightly a little bit low, it's covered over with the sand.
So is there vegetation in the ditch?
Nope.
No. And along the ditch is grass and trees,
A
is
bunch of invasive knotweed and
weeds?
nasty stuff, yeah.
No, there wasn't, that part was all just muddy, and it wasn't just, not muddy, but just sentiment, it wasn't wet, I don't know. But I'm just concerned that, like I said, being the fall, like a couple weeks ago, I was like, my gosh, if we get a hurricane and get blasting winds, this has no place to go. But any rainstorm that we get, like even the snow melting is gonna be a pain, or no. So you want me to find out if I have the actual, or go through the real estate agent?
I think that would be very helpful for us if you can get a little more information for the right of way, and if you can get a drainage map from the Public Works Department, that would be even better, because we would understand how it's all connected.
Okay.
Because I think like they need to go in and clean catch basins at a minimum, and perhaps take some of that sediment out, because obviously it's not good for the
But
pond.
it's going all the way down the yard, it's not a short distance,
Yeah.
that's why it amazes me that, because between here and there, with it's ending, there should have been more sediment my way collecting than way down the other way.
Yeah, and if the easement exists, then, the highway department would have.
But even then, do they have the right to cover that over when that
No.
goes right to the pond?
No.
So it should be able to be dug up again.
We would want to see the water flow, I think, is really the goal. And we don't really want to see sand from the streets going into the pond either.
No, I don't think.
That's my concern, is the water quality is probably pretty bad.
Yeah, we could only go, when we went out there, we could only see past her property probably 100 feet, so I don't know if the sediment traveled further down.
But no, right where you saw the bush, that's where it goes into.
Yeah.
The pond comes out.
Oh, it comes out that far?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I thought it was back like another couple hundred feet.
So it's not that far that if they filled it or if it filled in. But I'm just thinking that when they were doing the yard, they just pushed more that way. They were cleaning out the yard. Because before there were like trees, like my yard, where my yard ends, there's a whole bunch of trees and stuff like that. Now it's all cleared out. It looks nice. I mean, they did a nice job, but they definitely look a way for that water to travel, And they covered it. And maybe they just moved in. Maybe they don't know they couldn't do that because they only have the land. So like his land was all finished out here. My yard ends here, and this is all wooded between 18 and 34.
Yeah, a lot of homeowners don't understand, so it's not unusual.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying he did it, but it definitely looks like it doesn't look like it was just happened.
But if you could see if you could find that easement and maybe get a little more information from the DPW, I think that's what we need, right, guys?
We can check the assessors map.
And
I think I have them.
we'll look at some of the stuff we have as well to see if we can do a little research, Mass Mapper, and
Yep.
go check the assessor's map.
Again, like I said, it was 1977
That was kind of like, hopefully the records are still there.
I know, that's what I'm wondering.
And you're saying there were trees were there, but there's trees that have been removed now?
No.
Oh.
No, everything's the same.
Everything's the same, but they cleaned it up and they just,
Yeah, well, where their land ended, so their land ended like right here,
okay.
and this is where the ditch was, where the
Yeah.
land ended. They thought, you would think the land ended there, but then this is all wooded. So I wish I
You
got.
said that they had cleaned things up. What exactly did they do? They taking brush
They
down?
did take some trees, their property, and clean up, like, it was like brush and stuff there, yeah. It was sort of like, it was nice because it sort of gave like, the way my yard is. Okay, so my yard is here, my yard goes like this, is my yard. And then the woods are over here. But there's a house here, and then the new house over here. So like in the wintertime, you can see all this, like, But it was kind of nice because in the summertime, it was kind of like the kind of secluded trees.
Yeah.
But,
I don't remember
not a lot of trees.
that we had I haven't been on that long this time.
This time,
But I don't remember a filing for that one. I don't know if anybody else does.
no.
For the new house. I'm just
Oh.
curious if the new house did filing, if it was,
What would they apply?
they may have, I don't know whether they have wetlands on their property, but if they did, they should file wetlands. And I don't know. You don't have anything in the records, do you, Tony, for this, for something on Park? It's Park, Center Street, right?
It's they run.
Is there address center or Park?
I'm on Park Ave, they run Central,
On-
Center Ave.
Center Ave.
Center Ave.
Two center.
I'm currently logged out of my team viewer, so I can't check at this moment.
Okay. All right, we'll check that too.
Okay, so, I'll just get back to you if I get information, if you get information, you can let me know.
Yeah, we'll continue it to the next meeting in 2 weeks.
Okay. All right, I kind of hope that you will, but.
See what we can figure out.
Thanks.
Does anybody else want, you mind if anybody else wants to take a walk out there too?
Oh, you're welcome to go out, yeah, just, you know, any of you just want to take a walk out, if I'm home, I'll show you, like, so you go down, like, the left-hand side of it, and then just, you'll see the other house, the white house and stuff.
Yeah, if anybody wants to go out there, just get out, Tony can get in touch
And
with
you
you, just
can
so you
walk
know.
down there, like, it's dirt, you're just walking down with the ditches, and
Yep.
then you'll see what the rest of it looks like, 'cause I've walked up there, so.
Thank you.
Any other questions from you guys?
Not for right now.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So,
Thank
so you're saying in 2 weeks, do I have to call if I get information? I mean, I'm gonna call you
Well,
out.
if you get information before that, just send it right to Tony or myself, and we'll discuss it. If we get more information that's helpful for this, and we'll discuss it at the next meeting. If it takes longer than that, we'll just continue it to the following meeting.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking you might have some information. I just thought maybe to have some more information, like as far as knowing that, but it would be that DPW you said the hiring department that would, who would be that, as far as knowing if that was ever in place and we have a record on that.
We would know if they filed with us, well, we just have to look it up. She can't get into the computer.
And if there's an
But
actual
DPW
easement, it would be
but-
on your deed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it should be on your deed, the easement, but
Right.
also DPW should have drainage plans.
Well, yeah,
to
Tony will
the
take care of
street.
finding out about getting the drainage plans from
Yeah.
DPW.
Yeah, that would be really helpful.
Okay, and I'll check with you. All right, thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
Thank you. Don't want to make a motion to continue to the 25th?
Make a motion to continue 18 Park Ave and the discussion thereof to the next meeting.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, next up, certificate of compliance for SE 084-368, located at 140 Rockland Street.
I have a question.
Eric here.
We have two numbers, 368 and 526. Are there
Yes.
two compliances that we're
Two
looking
that
at?
are open, I guess, yeah.
So it's the original one and then the one that they did for the house. So the first one has the replication area in it, right? Do you have those files, Tony?
Board over here? Sure. Would you like the table over here?
Probably better, yeah.
Just give us a second,
These both.
in case I miss it, whose birthday?
No, it's a congratulations day.
Two.
It says Lynn.
Spelled my name.
Congratulations.
You let the cat out of the bag.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you just passed
You just wanted a piece of cake, that's it.
Yeah, how long do I have to stay?
till the end of the
To the
meeting.
very end.
Okay, so which one are we doing?
You doing the
The
landscape?
COC,
Yeah, so we're gonna do 368 first, right, guys?
526.
No, 36, there's two of them.
Yeah, 0368 is the oldest one, 2005.
Yeah, let's look at this one first.
Okay.
Okay, they can help us walk through it.
All right, I got it. Wow. I'm not gonna open mine up if you are opening yours.
No, well, this is the old plan. So if you can open up your new plan, that would be fine.
Well, we'll do it one at a time. Do you want together?
Do you want me to introduce people or?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you, we're talking about,
The 2005.
yes.
Okay. So for the record, my name is Attorney Sean Riley of 500 Washington Street in Abington. Here representing Lee Mann and his wife Maria, the current owners of 140 Rockland Street. With us tonight are Eric Diaz and Stephanie Hoban from Strong Point Engineering, along with Brooke Monroe, our wetland scientist. We have three things on the agenda. The first two are requested certificate of compliance on both of orders. And the third issue is the pending notice of intent for a new order. So we're starting first with the oldest one on the list, 2005. Lee didn't own the property back in 2005. Doing the title work and looking at this current project, we found the 2005 order conditions issued to AB Contracting, I believe it is. He got an order back then to fill in some wetlands, and he basically was the first guy who put in the dirt road. He actually owned the lot that the Manns own now, and he owned this property down here. And he had a kind of a big roof. It was a rather large piece of property back then. I was not involved with that owner. Neither was Lee, neither was Strong Point. But it's, the owner conditions is on record at the registry of deeds. We noticed there was no certificate of compliance. And I believe the reason is, in 2012, that company, AB, went bankrupt. There's a bankruptcy order on record where the bankruptcy court, the bankruptcy appointed a trustee to take control of all of the company's assets, including the land. And they authorized an order of the trustee to sell the property. And as part of the bankruptcy order, it said to, the land was now free of all mortgages and all encumbrances. So basically, anything on record in the bank or any sort of permits and stuff was wiped out. So the order of conditions technically is wiped out by the bankruptcy court, but if anyone goes to the registry for the next 40 years, they're going to see the 2005 order. And we thought it'd be best to close your file and to close the registry of deeds file by recording a certificate of compliance for that 2005 order. That's a summary of what it is. It's really, I'm hoping, look at it as a housekeeping thing. We don't have anything to add to it because we weren't part of that project. The only thing we can add theoretically is our existing conditions plan shows you what's there now, some 19 years later. If I'm not wrong. 17 years later. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them, but that's the extent of my knowledge because we weren't really involved with that.
Open up to the board, any questions?
I have a question, of course. As I understand it, but I've lost track, the 2005, that's when they put in the road. I thought there was a replication area that was introduced near the road, but do you know whether it was?
I honestly don't know. I don't have.
I just pulled it, Tony just gave me the file and I'm not seeing.
Just with living in town, I believe the limited stuff we could get from reading the order itself was that they were allowed to fill in some wetlands without replicating. Is that what we saw?
That's my understanding, is that they were allowed, there was a wetland pocket that kind of came out through here,
Yeah,
and they were allowed to fill that in, but there was no replication required as a part of that filling during the 2005 order of conditions, is my understanding of it.
when I pulled the mass mapper,
I think I have a picture of it.
shows that there was man-made filling in the area you're talking about and some additional filling there. It goes on, this kind of goes into the notice of intent more than this. I talked to Andrew Poyant, we all did, at the site visit we had, and
From DEP.
from DEP. And the way the filling works, fill never goes away as a problem for a site. However, it only lasts for 3 years. You know, when somebody buys it, you've got 3 years. So right now, the property owner has owned the land longer than 3 years, so it doesn't trigger. However, the next owner, which this board could decide to issue an enforcement order if they wanted to. It's nuts. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's a nutty ruling, but that's what he got from the lawyers. All right, I expressed that correctly?
Yeah, every 3 years, you have 3 years to do something, but the clock resets with the next owner.
Exactly.
When you say you have 3 years to do something, you have, the Conservation Commission has 3 years to
Correct.
issue.
The owner,
Yeah.
Well, the owner and conservation does.
if they
Yeah.
have,
We
Yeah, they
could
filled
issue
in.
an enforcement order. We can't right now, so, that's not,
Yeah,
but anyway, I'm trying to figure out what, this is a mess,
Can I
basically.
ask for clarification on that? So he did the
Could
work,
you just get up and state your name?
Stephanie Hopkins from Strong Point. So I'm just asking, I'm confused by that because the order was in 2005 and they did everything this is the plan that we have that just shows filling. It doesn't show any replication areas on it.
Yeah, that's what go ahead. No, you go ahead.
So, and based on the order of condition, there was no replication mentioned in the order of conditions. So if they did all of this work but didn't file the actual
When I asked,
Certificate of compliance?
I asked Andrew,
Mhm.
and that was the answer he gave me. And I did explain that,
Okay,
you know,
so
there
why
were
would
3 files out there, but filling never goes away. It's just one of those things.
And
I'm
it's still
just-
showing up on Mass
It was news to me.
No, I'm just curious, so because
I was
I'm just looking for this to close that file right away, but
Yeah,
what would you be enforcing? Like, what do you tell a current owner to go fill?
you would probably have them go out with the core and figure out where, you know, where we think the billing was and try to,
But it was an authorized fill, right? Am I missing
no, I don't
something?
think it was.
On Mass Mapper, if you were to go there now and to look at any outstanding wetlands that needed to be replicated, there's an area that's highlighted in yellow, and I think that's what we're referring to. It's still outstanding. There was fill there, but it's still showing up under DEP as an
Right.
area that needs to be.
But that's the area that's shown on this plan for filling.
And is that because there's no certificate of compliance? To say that
No,
that
it's
was
because-
done?
It's because that according to DEP, they're still showing it as the replication not being done.
Right.
But if
DEP
we-
mapped everything over, you know how they take those aerials
Yeah.
and they mapped it, so they have shown, they could see it on their maps and they
Right.
can have a reason.
And it's still showing up.
Kathy,
Yeah.
in
Sorry,
2005, we issued an order of conditions with authorizing them to do a fill without a replication, and how can
We
we
don't,
make it do a
there's no
replication?
fill, I mean, there's something that indicates there was fill on the plan, but there's really no, like, we allow you to fill, or there's
Oh, yeah,
So
There's
then,
really no, I think this was sort of, I think this was a mess from what I remember, but I think there was, you know, some issues with
Yeah.
that at that time.
I don't doubt it, but I don't
And
want,
I
I think it's a
wanna-
long meeting. So let's say this, if you guys can't do enforcement and it's 2005, then I would suggest I ask you to issue a certificate of compliance and close the file. And if there's anything based on existing conditions that you'd like us to take care of as far as wetland goes, that's why we're here for that.
just do a replication as part of the.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna try to
Yeah,
use what's there and comply with the Wetlands Protection Act.
and the reason I brought it up was I didn't want you to not know that
Yeah.
this is a problem, you know, that the owner may have to face at some point. It's not gonna be,
And that's
7 of
why,
us.
even though the bankruptcy court said it's gone,
yeah,
I think it's cleaner and nicer for everyone if this board issues the compliance and it's recorded.
I
Then
don't
nobody
disagree.
comes back
Yep.
and Tony can file that file away.
So-
I
So moved.
So,
Well, what are we talking about for replication? We should, it's,
I think if we're going to discuss replication, we should do it under the second.
do with our existing
do it under the
notice of
open
intent.
notice of
If there's
intent.
anything that has to be done.
yeah,
We're not aware of it, but-
yeah, I wanna pull out this one.
That would all be cleaner at the registry, correct?
Oh, yeah. I mean, believe me, there are a lot of order conditions on record at the registries, I think you're aware of it, that don't have certificate of compliance in every town. Because people just don't understand the need, or you guys issue one and mail it to someone and they don't know they have to record it. So every once in a while, as real estate agents find them, and they're a dozen years old. You know, and it's a problem for all of us, because, you know, it says, oh, you should submit an as-built plan from 2008. I can't wind back the clock.
It would have been so much easier if they took
Yeah.
care of it back then.
Right.
We have been trying to deal with it a bit,
Yeah,
because
I was working, sorry.
you were working with us too.
Yeah, we were going through old files and I was trying to help get them recorded. And we probably got 20% of them done.
Yeah, we've got a lot left.
So I guess, I was looking at the certificate of compliance form. There's one that says, you know, the work was not undertaken and this, what do you call it, it has expired. I think I'm suggesting you can cross out the line that says the work was not undertaken, because he did do the work, but leave the language that says the work isn't expired and it's now, you know, full certificate of compliance. It's an odd situation, but I don't know there's any other thing you can do.
Yeah, looking at these, it doesn't look like there's any replication in there. I thought there was, but it doesn't, you guys have looked at them too.
Yeah, we have, and I
Yeah.
didn't find anything that required replication under the 2005 order, which I agree is odd, but.
Yeah, I think there's some enforcement issues and everything that went with that one. And then the later one, I don't see it in there either.
Yeah, there was a DEP appeal in there, and,
It's messy.
yep.
I wasn't on the board then.
Ken Conway was,
Anybody,
yeah,
have
about
any
it.
other comments? Not open up to the public? Want to bring it back to the board? Is there any more questions? So I want to make a motion.
I'll make a motion, we offer a certificate of compliance for SE 084-368 for 140 Rockland Street.
Second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, and I'll work with Tony after you guys sign it, and I'll get it recorded, and we'll get a copy recorded.
We have another one though, right?
Right.
Sean, you did a second one.
Oh, yeah, no, slightly different fact pattern, but that was the old one that we weren't really involved in. So if we're ready, we'll go to the second one on your agenda, which is 84-526.
SE 084-84526,
526.
certificate of compliance located at 140 Rockland Street.
So again, we wanted to clean up things so that as we move forward with the notice of intent that's in front of you now for the proposed street, everything in the past has been kind of cleaned up and taken care of, like it's supposed to be. So in 2018, the commission issued an order of conditions to Lee and Maria to put in their new house and to put in a paved driveway to service the house on the same property that we're talking about in about 10 minutes with the order of conditions. And as we talked to you in September, Lee and Maria did build their house. They put in the gravel base. There was a dirt road there when they bought it. They put in a gravel base. They were getting ready to build and pave the road. And they had a little family discussion, and they said, you know, we should build something out here for our kids, but you need to have a road and not a driveway for that. So don't pave the driveway. Let's go back to the Conservation Commission. Let's go back to the Planning Board, which is what we're doing now with the other one, right? Just got a number issue today. So that 2018, we're asking for civic compliance to kind of put that to bed and focus everyone's attention on this current 2022 notice of intent for the road that's going in, because we're not going to put the paved driveway in. So Strong Point submitted the request in writing. We're using the existing conditions to show what's out there. And then we would address everything, you know, updated drainage and wetland stuff with the notice of intent that's to follow. So again, kind of an administrative thing to kind of clean house, close that file, because we're not doing the driveway with the one house. We're going forward with the roadway with the three.
You have any questions on this one?
What box do we check since?
I know, that's one.
It looks like there's a box for most of it got done.
Most of it not done?
Yeah, it's
It's
number
odd,
5, the second option.
which causes problems for real estate guys, because we're looking to make sure that they did everything they were supposed to do. And you're right, because you could say like, oh, we did everything but paved, right? Which is kind of a good thing in this way, in weird regard. So I don't know, Brooke is my wetland scientist. I don't know if you can click off the, you know, full certificate with a note saying driveway was never paved.
This request is for certification. The second option, wait, so the first one was the work regulated has been satisfactorily completed. Then the other is the following portions of the work regulated by the above referenced order of conditions have been satisfactorily completed.
Which is like
So
a partial.
basically, everything you could, everything was done except the driveway. And then
Right.
you're technically accurate. Right?
Yeah,
And then I don't think matters what you put on here in terms of what is written on the order.
for a real estate guy, it's like a partial release of a mortgage versus a full discharge of a mortgage. So if you check off, this is a good conversation, if you check off you've done most of it, someone else is gonna come back to you saying, can you give me a full-blown certificate saying everything is done according to that order? So I think the cleaner way, from the real estate point of view, is to say, full certificate of compliance, and then you can add a note, asterisk, driveway was never paved.
Yeah.
You know,
And then with a reference to the next notice of it.
yeah, you could say, see the new order number.
5590.
Yeah, if you want to do that, that thing connects all the dots.
Okay.
That would be my suggestion. It's an awkward thing here where we kind of change gears in the middle of development from driveway to the roadway. But standard forms are always good for non-standard situations.
Any other questions? Open up to the public? Nobody? Bring it back to the board? Anything else? Someone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion for SE 084-526, certificate of compliance at 140 Rockland Street.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
With the notation.
Oh, yeah, with the notation that, above reference, order conditions has been satisfactory, completed, except for gravel driveway. But except driveway is
What's not
gravel.
there? Yeah, whatever.
Except for the driveway we talked about.
The second,
I'll second that.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Super, thank you.
All right, next up is notice of intent, SE 084-559, filed by Walter L. Mann, located at 140 Rockland Street.
Walter L. Mann Jr., really. That was too bad. And Maria and his wife, spelled like Maria, but it's Maria. Don't make the mistake of calling her Maria.
I thought you were mispronouncing it all. I didn't know that.
Oh, no. Again, Sean Riley, 500 Washington Street. Eric, Stephanie, and Brooke are wetland scientists. We are here now with the notice of intent. If you recall, we were here in September with the initial review of the filing from Strong Point. At that meeting, you asked that we go out and reflag the wetlands and schedule a site walk, both of which were done with Brooke's assistance. She flagged it, submitted a report to you through Strong Point, and I understand they were there during the site walk in this property. Beautiful piece of property. Lee lives there, and for the most part, the area that's to be developed and constructed is already a clear area. We also were asked to meet with the fire department, because we're also working with the planning board, because the planning board has to approve the roadway. So we did meet with the fire department, and based on their meeting with us, Strong Point has submitted an updated plan to you, which basically shows their desire is, with today's fire trucks, they're bigger and longer. So they wanted to make sure that they have maneuverability. So they asked us to widen what I call the throats of the driveways, so that they can do three-point turns rather easily, and to soften the radiuses, the radii, so that it's easier for a truck. I mean, it benefits a UPS truck, a delivery truck, but also the fire department.
The landscaping in general.
What's that?
And the landscaping in general.
Yeah, it's a nicer look, and the roadway itself isn't changing. The throats are gonna be widened, and they asked that the circular driveway be completely paved and not partially paved for the same reasons. If they have an ambulance run, it's easy for them to loop around no matter what house they're at, or the ladder truck is 48 feet long, I believe, 48 or 42. Hopefully they never have to come down here, but in the event they do, the fire department want to make sure, and obviously by paving, it's easier to keep it clean and plowed during the winter months. If you're not aware, Lee he owns his own landscape company, long-time landscape company. He does plowing for a living in the winter, so that'll be always flat out there. They did ask us to leave, there's an existing gravel roadway that leads to the west, up to the back lot line. Fire department asked us to keep that there as a fire road. They have had some fires out there in the woods, so they just wanted that as an access. It's an existing condition. They just said, don't remove it, leave it there for us. We're like, okay, that's fine with us. What else do I have to say? I want to let Eric to give you more detail about it. But, we also confirmed that if you wanted to get some information about the river that's up off our property, it was confirmed that the scope of work here is well outside of the 200-foot riverfront, so the river is not an issue. When this house on lot 2 gets constructed, if they are doing any sort of work within, we don't anticipate they're gonna move the house back there because that is a big piece of ledge right there. But if they did for some reason, they would have to come to this board if they're within 100 feet of the wetlands or within that 200-foot riverfront protection area. But what we're proposing tonight with the new proposed roadway layout and what this plan is also going to go to the planning board does not affect the riverfront protection area at all. I'd like Eric to kind of give you a more detailed engineering wetland review, and then if you have any questions, we have Brooke, Stephanie, and Eric to answer most of those, and I'll try to be quiet.
Good evening. As Sean introduced me, but just for the record, Eric Dyes with Strong Point Engineering, registered professional engineer, representing the project tonight. One thing with regard to the river, and I think we had talked about this at the site walk, we did discuss this with Andrew Point from DEP. He did weigh in and he copied, I believe, your admin on an email saying that basically it looks like you're well more than 200 feet away from the river. So you don't need to bother delineating that now, but moving forward, if you do work on lot 2, you may need to address that issue then. So that is in the file, which is good. I want to go back to the existing addition sheet for a minute here.
Can I stop you for just a second? I want to ask Sean a question. Sean, the lots, are they going to come back to us, the lots, or are we looking at the whole thing right now?
You're looking at the roadway.
We're looking at the road, right?
For the proposed homes, these are likely going to be the locations of the houses. So these don't affect, the construction of the houses would not trigger any wetlands, right? Any
Unless the
conservation.
lot goes back beyond.
Unless anything
Unless the
changes.
clearing goes out, yeah. If they change the locations and go deeper, again, the ledge is probably gonna be a reason not to, because it's time to put a foundation in the ledge.
Yeah, it's just lot 2 is pretty big. for
Yeah.
Yeah,
Most of it.
it's
It
like
goes right into the wetland there.
400 feet deep or something like that.
It's a little better than 3. So our intention at this time is that we're before you for the roadway and infrastructure.
Okay,
And then if need be, we'll come back on a lot by lot basis when the time comes.
thank you.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go back to the existing additions plan here for a minute, just because I want to point out, and I should have brought it with me, I didn't, but we did ask Brooke to redelineate all of the wetlands that you see here with the exception of the stream. And they're all, you get this BBW that wraps around the back of the house and the property. That was pretty much the same as what we had before, flags deviate a little bit here and there. This little isolated wetland here actually got a little bit bigger than what we had originally had. And this leg over here of this BBW got a little bit more expansive than what we originally had. So, end of the day, what we're showing is more wetland on the site, but it doesn't really change anything about what we're doing. We're still coming in and building a road on top of what is effectually a road now, just a gravel road. You recall from the site walk, when you go out there, you got ledge outcropping on this side, you got a wetland on this side, and you got this little driveway that weaves in between. All we're doing is taking that driveway and bringing it up to public safety standard and installing some stormwater drainage where there currently is none. So the other thing that I'll highlight, I think Sean did a great job talking about the driveway changes that we're doing for the fire department, and that's good. One thing, and this may tie into some of the replication that we talked about, when we went before the planning board, their peer reviewer had the idea, well, you've got this stormwater basin over here, what if we turn it into sort of a bioretention area? What if we plant it? What if we put some wetland species in there that are gonna help to treat the stormwater runoff? They're gonna suck up the nutrients in the stormwater, and all of that. So that's what we did. We've come up with a full planting schedule. You can see it down here. We're basically turning this in, we're calling it a bioretention area. It's basically a constructed stormwater wetland. So in time, if not managed, that wetland will grow, and that will become a part of that wetland. I think in a very significant way, that is mitigation in a sense for what we're proposing to do here, right? That is a betterment to the wetland complex that's on site. It's providing stormwater management where there currently is none, and it's gonna help treat all that stuff. So really, aside from that, not much on the plan has changed.
I'm sorry, where is that replication proposed for?
This location right here
Okay, thank you.
is the location of it. And we had just talked about possible replication for the filling that was done under the 2005, which to kind of tie them all together. Here is some mitigation that could be counted toward that.
Do we know how much was filled in?
I don't have that figure off the top of my head.
Okay, I'm just wondering if this is gonna be a 1-to-1.
I would say, eyeballing it, it looks about 1-to-1 to me. We can certainly find out exactly what those numbers are.
Okay.
So, who went on the sidewalk and what did you see?
I think.
Anybody else?
Tim and I went to.
Oh,
Yeah.
what did you guys see? because we didn't get to go.
Sorry,
I know, there was a problem with the dates. Yeah, Paul kind of reached out to me and said, the sidewalks today, people are there, and I'm like, okay, I didn't know. So unfortunately, not all of the commissioners who wanted to go were able to go. I pulled in and I talked and I met Mr. Mann and Brooke Monroe, and I met you as well. And we walked down the road here. I remember walking into the road here because there were two sets of flags. One was done probably back when the house was built in 2018, they flagged it. There was also a silt barrier there. So the wetland had moved closer to the road. The silt barrier up here towards the street, I guess it's, this whole area depression here is fed from a drain that's out in the street that Mr. Mann goes and cleans out very nicely for the town, and it fills in with water. I did notice on top of the silt barrier, there was some giant rocks. They must have just kind of fallen in somehow. I don't know where they came from. I do remember on the Mass Mapper, the area up here, and that's when Paul came, so then we walked over and he looked at the drain pipes over here. I did mention about, on Mass Mapper, that outstanding area that's still outlined by DEP.
Right, and some of the area that shows on Mass DEP is like this, these two are more
Yeah.
connected. Well, they look a little more connected here anyway now.
Yeah,
So maybe you guys caught some of it with the reflagging.
yeah.
And I think from a drainage perspective, I think what really happens here, if you look at this, is that this area right here is taking flow right now.
Right, from behind the house over here, right.
Eventually, when that overtops, it drains back to this bigger BBW here.
Okay.
It makes a connection there. I think there's just some ledge in the way that's stopping that from being a full connection right there. So it's almost like a tiered effect with the drainage, which is what we were able to take advantage of in our design to mitigate stormwater flows.
And then Tim and Paul showed up.
So you guys happy with the line? Did you take soil cores?
I asked about soil cores, and Brooke said because of the steepness of the property, she didn't feel that she could. Is that correct?
Yeah, you really can't do when you have such a steep slope. You have to do, cores above and below. So it would have been, it's all ledge, you really can't do any kind of cores that would show you anything. And there really is very little vegetation. On that side, it was pretty much the end of the driveway. And then when it went into where all the rocks were, it became kind of the edge of the ledge. So there's really no place to, so we really couldn't do the data forms because it didn't make sense because we couldn't do them on both sides.
Yeah, I haven't been to the
Yeah,
site, so
yeah.
that's why I'm asking.
It's pretty obvious, don't you think, from what you saw?
Well, I mean, again, walking along the road here,
Yeah.
this is where the silt barrier was, right up here. And like I said, there were giant rocks, and then there were outcroppings within the wetland.
Yeah.
But to me, that area, I just said, gee, that kind of looked like an area for a vernal pool, and they said there aren't any vernal pools there, so. I mean, this is not the season to be checking for it, but, I mean, I did see the watermarks on the rocks, so
Yeah.
it must sometime fill in with water and provide some sort of, I mean, it's only 6 to 8 weeks for it to be considered a vernal pool in the spring, and we couldn't check for that now anyway, so. But, that's what I saw.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
On your approval, this plan will be going to the planning board at the November 7th meeting. The town engineers reviewing the exact same plan. We anticipate their approval. They've looked at it initially, just like you. And Lee's looking to get this done. It's been a couple of years he's been trying to put this together.
And the way you explained the road, it was going to be so that it's going to have the berms on the side or something?
It's got the berms on the side and it's super elevated. So there's berms on the side. We've only strategically broken the berms where we need the water to relieve
Right.
and go into the basin.
The berms, again, are requested by the fire department. They do not like granite curbing because they puncture tires. So this is kind of more, using the Cape Cod berm is more of a countryside road look, and not the double barrel vertical granite curbing. Planning board is fine with that too. They haven't voted, I shouldn't say they're fine with it. We've discussed it, all the indications are they're fine with it.
Well, and I should say that their peer reviewer, their engineer, has indicated support for those particular waivers that we need to get away from the vertical granite curving and things like that. So we think that there's a good chance that that's a go.
Any other questions? Open up to the public? Nobody? Bring it back to the board. Any other comments, questions, discussion?
Nope.
No one make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion for SE 084559, notice of intent filed by Walter L. Mann, located at 140 Rockland Street for approval.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Oh, wait a second. I got a question. The replication, I think they were gonna go and figure out what
Right.
the replication was before the motion's on the table.
Well, I thought we were talking that the rain garden was gonna be in lieu of,
Well, that was part of it, I think Mr. Diaz alluded to, in that he didn't know the exact total amount of the outstanding area.
Right.
Because if they did like 4,000 square feet or something, then we're getting 2,500. So it's not even a 1-to-1.
I would just offer to the board, if I may, respectfully, looking at the site that we have, there's not, in this area anyway, there's really not a lot of opportunity to do much more than what we have proposed right now, because we have so much ledge outcropping here. I think we've, at least in this area adjacent to the area that was filled, which came through here before, I think we kind of maximized it based at least on the existing condition that we see on site today. Just for whatever that's worth for consideration.
And you did say, based on the vegetation you're planting in the bioretention, that if it's unmanicured, it will expand.
It will expand in time, yes, it will.
But where will it expand? Onto the neighbor's property?
Well, expand might not be the right word. This bioretention area, the wetland line, if we go back and delineate this in 5 years, this green wetland line will probably encompass this bioretention area at that time, once the vegetation fully grows in. So we are creating, we leave that unchecked, that will create wetland.
When we're talking about filling, we're talking about 2005,
Yes.
but that isn't an issue unless Mr. Mann changes property, is that correct?
Then he's just kicking the can down the road to somebody else.
But there's no paperwork showing that a replication was required either, correct?
Correct. That's what we had just voted on.
Right.
But from what Andrew gave us as an opinion of the site, it was that we still, as a board, it went to a new owner to issue an enforcement order. I'm not suggesting that by any means at this point, because they're trying to cooperate with us.
Right.
Certainly I want to fix it,
Right.
just be done with
But
it.
we just voted to issue a certificate of compliance, so the whole enforcement.
So those two are closed.
Those two, we can't do it. We
Yeah,
can't,
so
we
it's
can't do
like-
it anyway, Sean, because we're already.
Yeah, so that's why I'm saying, let's.
But I don't want another, what I'm trying to do is make sure another, a new board, a new owner might do something. Let's try to, this is good, what you're proposing.
That's our goal too. If he ever sells this property,
I don't want him to, I don't want to have any issues.
right, and I don't want to tell Alexander, looking at the 2005 thing, because that's
Yeah.
clean. 2018 is clean. This is the one that everyone has to look at, and we have to build per this plan.
Right.
And this conforms with wetland protection, and it will conform with the planning board, stormwater management, their engineering. So I think that's everybody's goal here. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
I think that's the motion on the floor.
You seconded it, right?
I seconded it already.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you all for your time, we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll be back in a few years and asking for a certificate of compliance.
Before it expires.
Thank
2
you.
years, few months.
Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me.
Your time.
Yeah, just leave your stuff there.
Yeah, it's fine. It's just a tiny room.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Is there anybody here for 0 Hancock Street? All right, I'm gonna move that to the end of the agenda. So next up is enforcement order discussion on Wetlands Protection Act violations located at 833 Washington Street. So just to give everybody a rundown on that property, that's the one that Tim did a complaint on about 2.5 weeks ago, I think it was. Gene went out to the site, spoke to the contractor, then Tim and I did a site walk from the sidewalk later on that day. Later on that week, we issued an enforcement order, and I believe the building department issued a stop work order. I know we said, as part of our enforcement order, we wanted to see a set of plans for the project and have erosion control placed up around the piles of dirt that were on site. The erosion control, they put up silt fence and I believe, was it 8-inch
Yeah, it is,
straw bales? And that's where we're at now.
Yeah.
You want to just state your name and address?
Simon Lam, 75 Allow Street in Braintree. Been working some of the general contractor for the job. So we obtained the permit back in late August, September. So we already started the excavation, and now during the excavation we found out it was conservation. Then that's why we had to stop work. So I'm here to see how can we get right.
Just based on do you have any plan showing the, where the river is? I know it's less than 200 feet away from where the construction's taking place.
So I mean the pond's like across the street.
No, I'm talking the river.
Back, I didn't know there's a river until I got to stop with board. I had to walk back here and I saw, oh my God, there's no river. So I don't have a plan for that. This came so short notice. I just got the plans to Tony today. And that's why you guys probably never seen the plan, because I just got it this morning. But I believe like the river's like right behind, like right here, in the back right there.
Yeah, I think Butterfly Park.
Butterfly Park.
Yeah, it's right behind
Which
Butterfly
is not
Park.
very big.
Right.
I think they're actually within the 100 feet. When I looked
Yeah, I
at
think
Mass
it's pretty
Mapper.
close,
When
yeah.
Tim and I did the sidewalk, we're on the sidewalk, you can see where the pile of dirt is. We both came up. We're 5 feet apart with what we thought.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
it's
distance
very
was.
close.
It's under 100 feet.
So,
Is it 50 or?
Probably around 75, is kind of what
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
sounds
I
right.
think we measured like 80, but yeah, it's around there. It's not 100 feet, definitely. Not 50 feet.
So the issue is with the Riverfront Protection Act.
Correct.
Is that, for redevelopment, we can build something, but since there was nothing really there, I don't know that we can actually build the gazebo. Because it's within 100 feet, it's not even in the 200, and it doesn't meet any of the exemptions because it's not residential. But that's my take on it. You guys may have looked at the regs too. But unfortunately, I think that, I'm fine with the underground stuff, we can clean it up and, put stuff back together, but I don't think they can put the gazebo there.
Well, I think if anything, they gotta come before us with a notice of intent
Yeah.
and
And talk to an engineer or, your consultants to see if there's a way to put that gazebo up.
Yeah.
I'm not questioning your plans, they look very
Oh,
detailed.
yeah.
It's really just with the Wetlands Protection
Yeah,
Act.
that's it. It kind of caught us by surprise.
Yeah, and the river is,
Because during the excavation, it's funny because we ran into the easement sewage line. That we called it, we was on the plot plan, so we called it DPW, and they don't have that on the plan, so they sent it down, and they saw it. So we actually spent 10 grand moving the easement.
oh,
Now, come back to cleaning up the excavation so we can put the forms in. So I got a call right before they put the forms in. That's how we got here.
so I think there's two things. The first is we just want you to clean up the place.
Yeah, I mean, there's
And then
nothing
this-
there other than dirt.
Other than, get the dirt
There's
out
no-
of there.
There's no construction
And
material
then
there.
if you should talk to a consultant.
Yeah.
Our read of it is that you can't build something there, but they may be able to figure something out from the regulations.
Yeah.
So you should probably talk to some wetlands people.
Okay.
That's
and that's a perennial stream, well, it's not intermittent, that's.
perennial.
Yeah,
It's
it's kind of funny, 'cause like,
It
the
flows.
pumps are there, but the sewage is going straight across.
Right.
That's why we like, nobody knew what it was on a plot plan, and the town didn't even have a record of it.
That's not good.
Yeah, so that caught us. I thought that's why it caught, because we got the building permit to build it, just don't know how it got by the conservation, but,
Yeah, we don't
yeah.
know.
We don't know
We don't
yet.
know
either.
Yeah, so that's why, we were scratching our heads, and I was just like, they're calling all my subcontractors to stop all that work, because nobody knows what's going on until we figure it out. And,
You don't want
so
to
I,
spend any
yeah,
more
so I
money.
know with the erosion control, I did that last Thursday. I couldn't do it on Tuesday, Wednesday, it was raining. I mean, it looked like a swimming pool now. But I got the erosion control. I had to move most of the dirt to the other side of the driveway, so we actually get the erosion control in. So I got that in, and I came right after to see Tony, and I figured about that we had a meeting. So I tried to scram up the plans to get in here, and I just wanted to see like what we can do and what we need to do to make it right. If it's doable or not, then I'll just discuss with the owner of the temple.
Yeah, and you probably want to talk to somebody in
Yeah.
the industry
Okay.
to an environmental
Okay.
consultant. Just
Because if you do want to come back and
Yeah.
apply
Yeah.
for it, one thing that you would have to do is it's called an alternatives analysis. So anytime you're going to build the net riverfront area, you say, here's what I want to do, but then you have to come up with an alternative of,
Yeah.
we
but
actually can do
That's
this
probably gonna take a time,
instead.
you know, like a big hole in the middle of the driveway.
Yeah, so like if you
That-
had another plan that said, we could actually move the gazebo over here farther from the river.
Okay.
So you would do one of two, or you could just say, we're gonna move it farther, we're well
So
outside.
would I talk to like the surveyor or not that? Because I know they're not on the property line, because I think the setback is 10 feet. We have only 11 feet away from the property line, so
Yeah, you would probably, it would
it's
be
like 200 feet is like,
It would
down
be
off the street.
an
okay?
environmental consultant like the company that was here
Okay,
presenting. You'd want somebody that
Okay.
understands wetlands.
oh yeah, like a civil engineer, something like that.
Yeah,
Okay,
but look for
alright.
the environmental piece when
Okay.
you're, not just civil, but it's really the environmental piece, because
Okay,
that's the piece that matters.
Thank
What
you.
did I do?
Any other questions?
I mean, other than consulting for the environmental.
Well, you can't move forward right now.
Yeah, but
And
yeah.
you have you excavated a hole there?
Yeah, it's right now there's a hole right there, and all I have is like an orange protecting fence, so that people know to just jump into the swimming pool now. But like, I mean, I don't know how it's gonna take, so do I have to fill the hole back?
That's completely up to you. I mean, we can't tell you to backfill anything.
Yeah.
If you can keep it safe, secure, that's all totally up to you. But if you do decide to backfill it,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to probably get either one of those dirt bags that we've talked about before to pump down. When you pump that water down,
Yeah.
you can't pump it directly out into the parking lot.
Yeah.
Because that sediment could still find its way out to the stream.
Okay,
So either get some hay bales, make a little, like a rectangular basin,
yeah,
pump into that, and then just let it
okay,
drain out that way.
yeah,
But as far as filling it goes, again, completely up to you.
okay, all right. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe we have to continue that to the next meeting, right? Might come before us, maybe for an hour. All right. Next on the agenda is notice of intent filed by, no, because they're gonna have to come before us again. Is, notice of intent filed by Crystal Cameron located at 200 Myers Ave and 0 Walnut Street. There's no DEP file number yet, is there?
Not that I've seen.
Okay.
Yep, we are absolutely aware. Thank you, though. I guess I will just borrow this one so I don't have to be marking. All right. Thank you all very much. My name is Devin Herrick. I'm an environmental scientist with Weston Sampson. I'm here representing the town for this particular project. I will say I'm also representing Alex, who's the one that submitted this, because she's off for her wedding today, which we're very excited about. So if there are any questions I can't answer, I'd be happy to get them answered for you folks before the next hearing. So I was going to start by saying we are aware that as of this morning when I checked, the DEP file number has not been issued. The engineers have also are aware that there is an existing order of conditions on this property for the majority of this work that they are going to look to have closed. And then they're going to open this current notice of intent for the work. So before your next deadline, you'll see a request for a certificate of compliance for that work. But if I may start with just a little bit of background. In 2018, a notice of intent was submitted and filed for. it was for, again, the vast majority of this work, but the only portion of the work that was actually completed is out here at the well field. Well 4, they completed the pump test, and as part of that pump test, they took water quality samples. At that point, the work stopped and nothing else has happened on site. Those water quality samples were analyzed and they came back with high levels of PFAS, well higher than what's allowed by the maximum contaminant level. As a result, PFAS treatment had to be added to the plan that was already in place. So that's why we're here, because now that adjusts the plan that was in front of you before, which has since expired because it was done in 2018. So what the proposed project consists of is a water storage tank, which is for their clear well, and the pump station that is associated with that clear well that was in the 2018 notice of intent. It's on an existing parking lot, as well as the replacement of these two well buildings. They are existing, they're being replaced in the same location in kind. One is actually being made a teensy bit smaller, but same location in kind. There's also all the utilities which connect out to the well. What they don't need to do anymore is they had originally proposed a well building out here. That's actually no longer necessary because now they're going to be using a submersible pump. So that goes within the well that's already there. So there will be no more well building proposed out here. There is a vault existing out there which will be abandoned in place. It's my understanding that holes are drilled in the bottom of that vault. It's filled in, sealed at the top, and left in place. The very new component to this is now this PFAS treatment building, which is located just here. And then it will be the utilities, which again connect it to that well system. So altogether, this proposed work will have 6,635 square feet of impact within the 100-year floodplain. That is a reduction from the previous notice of intent. There will be no direct wetland impacts, but the entire project area is within 100 feet of a wetland because it is completely surrounded by wetlands on all sides. There is going to be a minimal increase in impervious area associated with the building, but that will be the only increase. So at this time, I'd love to hear any questions you may have about the project. And we are aware that we'll be continuing to the next hearing, but I wanted to take the opportunity to present to you folks, which I greatly appreciate.
Are the wetlands flagged out there at this point?
The wetlands were flagged here with the green line. They were flagged as part of the 2018 notice of intent.
So are the flags out there now?
They haven't been updated since the 2018, so what's out there will be remnants of what's left.
So we're probably going to want to walk out there, and you're going to need to renew those.
Absolutely.
If you could do that, that would be great.
You got it.
And as far as the impact in the 100-year floodplain, I was very confused by your write-up.
I apologize, I forgot to point out my colors to you. The orange represents the 100-year floodplain with everything below the line and to the sides being within the 100-year. So this is not within the 100-year floodplain, but this work out here is within the 100-year floodplain.
So are you proposing compensatory storage for that work outside?
There will be no loss in storage. It will all be returned to existing conditions when it's completed. So
that's just a utility line.
You got it. So there will be no loss of storage, so no compensatory storage proposed.
And there's 2 wells going in? Did I see that correctly?
A single well. These 2 over here, they're just the foundations for the well buildings, is my understanding. The new well is this well for this out here. These 2 are already existing.
They're just updating those buildings.
You're correct.
But you're adding the Pfas building, right?
Yes, which is this rectangular
And
structure
tank
just here.
A tank of fodder.
The tank and the associated pump.
What's the size of the PFAS building?
Let's see, 28 by 51.
And there is, the Shimatusket is out there, but it looked like it's far enough away that it's not, the riverfront does not trigger.
That is my understanding, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Open up to the public? Go back to the board? Did you not get the number because of the open order conditions, or you don't?
They didn't issue any comments so we have no idea. We assume they're really slow and they've been processing checks really slowly, so we're thinking with the holiday weekend, maybe they just didn't get it processed.
All right, so yeah, so in 2 weeks,
We'll be back.
So do we need to set up a site walk? And
That would
could
be
you
good.
please make sure your biologist brings their auger?
Absolutely.
Munsell chart.
And Munsell chart.
And Munsell chart too, yeah, that would be helpful.
Absolutely.
yeah, see if we can set it up sometime next week, that way
Yeah, preferably,
we're ready for the next meeting.
something that's doable for the board.
I was gonna say, does the board have a time in mind that's best for you folks that we can accommodate?
Most of them work, so, I mean, it was.
Usually 5 o'clock.
Sometime after, yeah, 5. yeah,
5 usually works for us, and it's still not getting dark yet, so.
Yeah, they give you about a half hour, 45 minutes.
Well, yeah, that's what we're saying, if we can get it in another week or so. Okay.
Not a problem. We'll reach out and coordinate the dates for that.
Through Tony. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
want to make a motion to continue to the 25th?
I'll make a motion to continue the Myers, the new, what do you want me to call it?
I think new treatment, the new water treatment plant or water treatment plant improvements.
The new water treatment plant improvement.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up is notice of intent filed by Bona Point located at 48 Lincoln Street.
Oh, they said they were coming back, so.
I think they're right out in the
I
hallway.
think they're out there.
I don't think they have a number either.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, there's some right there. I got this. Sorry, okay, mine. This is the right one.
Oh, yeah.
That's Rockland Street. Wait a
I
second.
moved it all up here.
Yeah. Okay. So here's 48 Lincoln. There we go. Is that Jamie? Okay. Okay, try it right side up.
Sorry, new slide.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Sorry for the delay, we didn't think we were moving along there.
We have cake waiting for us.
We have a cake waiting for us.
You think you have a cake waiting for you. I've been out there for a hot 45 minutes, it's half gone.
It's right in here, so
What flavor was it?
You know better. You
Well, it's
know.
chocolate, it's gone.
It's vanilla with chocolate frosting.
It did look good though.
I don't know what I do with it.
Not good.
We can look on.
I will look on with you. And I had my papers and I wrote down all my notes. Oh.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, thanks for your time and your patience. We're good?
We're good.
Okay, Sean Riley, 500 Washington Street, representing Abington Investments LLC, the owner of 48 Lincoln Street. With me today is Randall Point Jr., sitting here in the front row, who's the principal of the LLC who owns the property. I think you're familiar with the LaPointe's work, reputation in the town. What we're proposing here, Eric Dias from Strong Point Consultants, Engineering Consultants, is here with us once again. He is the engineer of record. We are proposing to tear down the existing dilapidated single-family house at 48 Lincoln Street and replace it with a new single-family house at 48 Lincoln Street. The issue why we're here with you today is that the eastern boundary line is essentially the river that runs between 48 Lincoln Street and 30 Lincoln Street. It's all single-family and two-family houses on Lincoln Street. I think most of you are probably familiar with the area, maybe gone by. If you've gone by, you've seen the existing structure. Not a pretty picture, so Glenn has been talking with several of the neighbors, and they are eager to see the existing structure go. So we told them that there is a permitting process we need to go through. It being Conservation Commission, through the presence of the river, and also, upon your approval, would be going to the zoning board for a special permit to build in the flood zone, the local floodplain. There is no wetlands fillings on this property. The reason we are here is because the entire property is within the 200-foot River Protection Act. Most of the property is within the 100-foot. And I know you have the plan in front of you, and it's been submitted to you, but just for the viewers at home, that's the 100-foot line. The blue is the edge of bank of the stream over here, the river. And this is the proposed house. Eric and Glenn and I have been working on this to try to put together the best plan possible that we think can address all of the various issues, because it's not just conservation we're addressing, we're also addressing zoning. The current house violates the zoning laws, the setback laws. It's too close to the street. So the new house has to come back. And when you bring it back, and when you don't have sidelines that are perpendicular, but instead they're slanted, as you bring a house back, the back corner gets closer to the sideline. That's going to happen, so we've tried to minimize that by moving it left, away from the river. The biggest thing we are doing here is that the existing conditions, the existing driveway and the existing house are closer to the river than the proposed house and the proposed driveway. We are moving the driveway to the far side, away from the river. We are not doing anything along the river. All the trees along the river are staying. I don't want to take Eric's thunder, but I'll just do a summary. He can get into detail. Right now, when it rains in the driveway, it runs unabated into the river. And you can see by the topography on your plans, it is a pretty steep slope along that. It just goes. It also then flows out back where it's relatively flat in the backyard, but there is a FEMA flood zone in the backyard. The other thing we're doing to improve the wetland situation, the environmental situation, is to remove an existing concrete paved area out, which is partially in the FEMA flood zone. We're taking that out and replace it with loam and seed, and also taking a shed that's out in that area and removing it, so there'll be more loam and seed, which means more absorption of stormwater. We're utilizing a retaining wall on this side of the house closest to the river for the benefit protection of the river, because what it allows us to do, if we don't use a retaining wall, then the grading from the river top of bank to the house would be a very steep run. And every time it rained, the water would just run unabated. So the retaining wall serves 2 or 3 purposes. One, as far as wetlands goes, it allows us to have a more gentle slope to lessen the slope of runoff for all the rainwater that falls between the retaining wall and the river. So that improves that situation. Anything that flows on top of the retaining wall, or between the retaining wall and the house, is designed to flow to the backyard, where it gets absorbed by the large lawn area instead of just sheet flowing into the river unabated. Also, by getting rid of the pavement here, any fuel oil spills, any gasoline spills that were potentially could wash into the river are now being eliminated, because now this is all lawn area up front. So we're improving the situation on the riverside. We had to take down, or proposing to take down, some trees on the far side of the house, away from the river, basically so we could grade it. Not only does it come up from the river up to the house, but then it comes up again to the next lot. So we're grading that there so we don't have to use another retaining wall over there. One of the other reasons where the retaining wall serves a purpose is for the family that will live here. If you pull in the driveway, kids get out of the car and want to play in the backyard, you're not gonna tell them, go climb the hill, go around the back of the side of the garage and come up back. They can go around this side of the house where it is now flat, protected for them. And it also channels them. Don't run down by the river, don't ride your bikes down by the river. This is how you get to the backyard now. There's an area about 12 feet wide that the retaining wall provides for the family to get access to the backyard. And that might come in handy too when they have patio furniture deliveries, whatever. They don't have to, bring a truck down along the river. They can come now through this area to get to the back. Pickup truck, I'm talking, something small. So for the family's use, that makes a lot of sense to us. For the river, it allows us to lessen the grade so you don't have, you can reduce the velocity of stormwater runoff, and aesthetically, it just looks nicer. It's more attractive and more usable for a family. It's a single-family home. So again, by moving the driveway and old house further away from the river, and by channeling some of the water away from the river and slowing the other water that goes to the river, we're kind of proposing a win-win-win situation for this plan for the new single-family house. The size of the house is actually comparable to the other houses. We looked at the size of other houses, it's actually smaller than some of the other houses next to us. But size-wise, we're not overbuilding the house. We did want to put the garage on because it's New England at the starting point. So I'll let, if I miss anything, Eric, or if you have any specific things, Eric's here to get into all the gory details. But that's the basic summary of how we got here, looking at the aesthetics, the family usability, the zoning requirements, and then the riverfront requirements. And we're trying to address all of those with this plan, and we're open to any questions that you may have. Eric is obviously more intelligent than I.
I wouldn't say that, but I think Sean did a great job, and he thoroughly stole my thunder, so I don't have very much to add at this point. Only that we did send in, after we submitted the notice of intent, one of the comments that we received is that we need provided an alternatives analysis. So we did submit that on the separate cover. I trust that you folks have seen that. But basically, there's obviously a no-build alternative, which is always thrown in there for funsies. And the other alternative is to shift this thing either closer to the river or eliminate that retaining wall. Either way, if we do that, we end up grading right up to the bank of the river, which is something that we obviously want to avoid, because how would we possibly stabilize that during construction? But by all means, any questions that you folks have, I'm glad to answer.
The amount of existing impervious surface, and what you have now, I think that there's a limit of increase of 10%. What do the numbers look like, and can you provide those for us so that we have them on file?
Sure. So we are proposing to increase the impervious surface in the 200 Riverfront, which is the entire site, by 113 square feet, which is not very much. Percentage-wise, honestly, I don't have that number off the top of my head. I can certainly get it for you. I do believe it to be less than 10%. One of the ways that we're doing that is that, as Sean had alluded to, we're taking away the patio that's back here and the shed, getting those out of the resource area. But I would say 113 square feet is, I think we can all agree, is pretty modest, but we can certainly take a look at what that overall percentage works out to be.
And I will add, because I'm a stickler, we were talking about this. I think Eric's being conservative with 113 because he included the front porch of the house as part of the impervious surface. But in reality, underneath the porch, it's not impervious. If the water, when it rains on the porch, it goes through the porch and it goes into the ground. But because it's a covered porch, he included it as impervious. Obviously, anything in the foundation is impervious and the driveway is impervious. So if you take away the 36 by 6, the 1,800 plus square foot porch, then you have negative impervious surface. But we showed you a worst case scenario, which results in plus 113 square feet, which is still under the 10%.
And overall, it's a small lot to begin with, so.
Yeah, it is. In fact, this lot is subpar even to zoning. Zoning requires 30,000 square feet. We're less than 20.
So every little bit counts on this particular lot.
Sure.
And I think you mentioned that you're actually going 7 feet closer to the river?
Than 7 feet closer than the house that's there now?
Yeah.
The house itself is closer than the existing house. The trade-off that we made for that was that we took this driveway that's located here and we moved that all the way to the opposite side. So in a sense, what we're doing is we're trading an area where we could have potential hydraulic fluids, oils, greases, gasoline, things like that, that could easily sheet right in on here, right down into the river. You can see the slope is very steep here. And we're trading that for 7 feet of impervious surface that would really capture nothing but rainwater, which would be clean.
Right. So with the Riverfront Protection Act, the idea is if you're going to do redevelopment, you actually, it's not just improvement on a house that's looking terrible or whatever. The improvement is supposed to be that you move farther away from where the existing home is.
Right.
I noticed with the building size, the current building was about 1,400 square feet. You're adding 400 onto this property. One of the things when I've had conversations with Andrew at DEP about in terms of alternatives analysis, if you're having trouble being able to move, you decrease the size of the building is one opportunity. I also noticed that you're increasing the amount of lawn by 980 feet. Is there a reason why?
Because we're taking away these impervious surfaces that are in the back here.
Okay.
So those are going to be lawn at that point.
Okay, so, I mean, lawn can only suck up so much water. So what I'm thinking, what would be much more helpful in that case would be putting something like trees.
Something like trees?
Trees instead of
A
lawn.
little planted area back here, perhaps?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we did not show a landscaping plan, but yes,
Okay.
we'll have that. And we will also be having roof drains, what do you call them? You know, the roof drains will recharge the water.
Dry wells.
Thank you, Jason.
So rather than just the roof drains, instead of just discharging to the surface of the ground, they'll go into some sort of, maybe like the Cultec, the plastic chambers or something that'll go into the ground, that'll help with recharge. And certainly, I don't think we have a problem planting some trees back here and doing a small mitigation area. What I would want to do is keep them out of the blue line, because that is the FEMA floodplain, and certainly we don't want to talk about filling anything in there. We just don't have room for compensatory storage on this site. But in this corner or something like that, to help with that, I think that's reasonable.
And I do want to note, again for the record, the existing additions, the house and driveway is 20 feet off of the river. The new house and driveway is about 27 feet off the house and river. So as a package, it is moving farther away.
Yeah, just to re-emphasize your point, I have my phone out because I have the reg. It says within 200-foot riverfront areas, proposed work shall not be located closer to the river than existing conditions, or 100 feet, whichever is less, are not closer than existing, that's the 25-foot riverfront for the more industrial sites. But it basically says, the farthest you can go to the riverbank is what exists now.
Now,
To your point.
my interpretation of that regulation is that what they're talking about in that case is the area of disturbance.
The area of the what?
The area of disturbance. So the area that's disturbed on the site up to the riverbank, we can't get any closer than that, which we're not. We are holding that, if you look through here, you can see this kind of squiggly line. This is the existing vegetation line. We are not encroaching on that at all. We're
So you're
leaving that
using the
disturbance
lawn.
We're using the lawn and the lawn only. We're not taking down any trees on the riverbank to do this.
In the setbacks that you just recited in that part of the CMR, if you keep reading the section F and G, there are different wording with it. But what Eric says, it applies. It's easier to see it that way.
Yeah, F and G has to do with if you're doing mitigation, if you're doing restoration, but you don't have that.
Or something that is makes environmental sense or whatever, there's a phrase in there. But as he said, the degraded area, the disturbed area is already pretty much into the bank. We are not expanding, we can't expand, we can't go any further, it already is there. So we're not expanding the degraded area. If anything, as I mentioned earlier, we think we're improving it and making the situation better for the river by, again, slowing the stormwater runoff, which they do specifically mention as a benefit, and directing some of the runoff out to the rear instead of at the river. So in all, the proposed conditions are better than the existing conditions.
By moving that driveway on the other side, like you said, you mitigate any potential hazards as well there too.
Yeah, there's no reason, I shouldn't say no reason, there's no designed activity along the river now where there is with the existing conditions.
Currently.
I mean, if you go to the house right now, you'll see there's a lot of activity down along the river, which we're going to remove.
Familiar with the site.
Yeah.
Any questions? Must be like an upgrade too. What's that?
Anybody else? Open up to the public. Get up and state your name.
How about I just said, Jim Dombrowski, 28 Temple Street, I'm a downstream abutter to Mr. LaPointe's property. Your roof drains that you're proposing to put into the ground are not gonna function right. You go out there now and you probably see water draining off the center of the property towards the river. That was put in by the previous owner. That backyard stays wet a good portion of the year, and I don't know whether it's hard pan or clay underneath, but that water just sits there, and as it spring to the fall, you can see it seeping out. So that's gonna pose a problem to it.
If I may address that to the board, I agree with the gentleman. There's certainly, we have a wetland resource area right here, we have a floodplain back here, we can expect that the groundwater level is gonna be high, and the soils aren't gonna be super receptive. What we would do with those recharge areas in this case is we'd equip them with a downspout overflow. So what would happen is the water comes down the gutter pipe, it enters the recharge area, and as much as possibly can will infiltrate during times where it's dry, right? So we get some benefit there. And then further, right above the surface, there'll be a secondary spout so that when those recharge systems are full, it will then discharge to the surface of the ground and run along its natural course. So certainly, if we were in a site where we had great sandy soils, these things rock and roll. In this case, it's sort of a belt and suspenders approach to help us do the best that we can to get some water back into the ground.
When you're speaking about garages, this is the only house in the neighborhood that has a garage. This house was built in 1950. All the other homes around it were built in the late 1800s.
How far are we talking? I know there's a house across the street, a couple houses down that has a garage.
Yeah, and 2 houses down has detached.
Has a barn.
No, there's a house that had an addition put in like 20 years ago, it's got a garage on it.
Somebody building one. 111's got a garage too.
Now, how are you handling road management for your demolition of the house?
Oh, that was, remember when we had the site walk, you're gonna have the other, row of erosion control in the back?
Yeah, what we're gonna do for that is right along the back property line, and I can pencil it right in, we're gonna add a secondary line of erosion control back here, so that way when we pull this pavement out and we pull this shed down, if we have any exposed soils, it doesn't run off the property. That'll do that, but I think to the gentleman's point, your question was about the road itself?
Road, rats, mice, woodchucks.
Rodents, oh, okay. I believe you were waiting before demo.
That are handled through the building department, they make you,
Yeah, usually like 3 weeks before any demolition, they make,
Well,
they're required of pest control.
So I hope you know you're gonna have a lot of deer coming through your yard.
I live right down the street, I see the deer all the time.
The two deer that you see there had 2 fawns apiece.
Oh,
They had twins. So now you have 6 out of the 2.
wow.
Not long ago, we had about 15 of them trying to make it through as they try to migrate up towards the old Bay State ice cream. They're all blocked out. They're walking the road.
I'm Jane Dombrowski, his wife, 28 Temple Street in the back there. I just want to share that this past year, I spent quite a few days out on the brook, okay? Leaves, people are throwing leaves into the brook. There's trees floating down there, and I didn't change anything. I didn't cut anything down. But I had to pull it all out, and there's like a waterfall at the end of where ours is, where everything backs up and stuff. So I want to pre-warn you about flooding and everything right there, that I don't know who throws all that stuff in there, but it all accumulates and stops at the end there. And the water was at the very top. I could see it from my kitchen window in my house. So it was on the very top. So I do want to share that we have to watch for flooding and everything. Okay.
Sure, thank you.
What's the width of the FEMA floodplain that you're showing from the center, call it center stream?
From center stream, if I may, my property line width through here is about 130 feet. So if I'm coming out here to the midpoint, I'd say about 75 feet from the center of the stream to the midpoint of it. Maybe to the edge of it, we're probably closer to about 100 feet.
Well, the lots are 130 by 150
Yep,
overall.
yep, that is correct, 131 by 150.
But you're saying that the southern edge of that property that fans out to 100 feet from the center of the brook?
The floodplain itself?
Yeah.
Yeah, so from the center of the brook being roughly here to about here is about 90 to 100 feet, I would say, based on if the frontage is 130 feet. It's about 30 to 40 feet off the edge of the property here.
And for the record, Mr. Riley, what's the name of that river?
Shuma.
Try again.
Shuma.
We'll turn you in Indian, yeah.
Shuma-Tuscarawas River, I believe, something like that.
Shuma-Tuscarawas.
Shuma-Tuscarawas.
You got it, it's on the record.
Thank you, Mr. Borowski.
Yeah, welcome, Mr. Riley.
I'm reading it, I can't pronounce it.
Any other questions from the public? I'll bring it back to the board. We can't vote on this because they don't have a number tonight, so we'll have to continue it to the next meeting.
Is there, you can continue, or honestly, if you'd like, we don't have anything else to present. If you close the hearing subject to the issuance of the,
Can't do that without having a file number.
they can close the hearing, they just can't vote to issue.
Yeah, I like to see the notes from DEP just to make sure it
Okay.
wasn't something.
That's fine.
that I-
Just trying to save him a trip back in.
Well, I don't think we have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Just plant a lot of plants, arborvitaes, a lot of nice plants that could be a
So,
because if you walk a little bit downstream and you look at the arborvitaes I have there.
I'll make a motion, we continue 48 Lincoln Street to the next meeting.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Aye.
is that 2 weeks from tonight?
October 25th.
25th? Yeah.
You're gonna have a big hurry.
All right, thank you.
So I went to some of the meetings, and I saw
Thank you.
I met Bob and then
Are you done with your
Joe,
agenda now?
right?
No, we got one more.
Fella in the back.
Next up is discussion on the enforcement order for the restoration plan located at 0 Hancock Street. Did you guys get Tony's email from Nicole, sent out yesterday?
Yeah, it looked like they were making some real progress. So,
I don't know, if you wanna, when they actually do the restoration work next week, you gonna want to go take a ride out there and see what's going on. I think we said that the last in-person meeting and the Zoom meeting, we want to have somebody out there to show them where to put the wetland markers in areas 1 and 2.
Take a look at it.
All right. Anybody else want to go with them? Or?
yeah, just let us know. If you can let us know when.
Timmy, I'll go with you.
Go.
Okay.
Yeah, you just let us know when.
Yeah,
Then we can,
when Nicole is like a definite date when they're going out there, we'll just
Yeah.
set something up.
that would be great.
Right, so want to make a motion to continue that to the next meeting as well?
I'll make a motion to continue 0 Hancock Street.
Second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, building permits and site visits. Site visits we've done were 140 Rockland Street and Park Ave and 48 Lincoln Street. Building permits, I haven't signed any except for the one they wanted to use with the haven't checked all off on.
It's not in there. It's just been so many different papers.
Meeting minutes?
Yeah, your package is down there.
I don't want to like walk in front of the
Yeah, we can now.
crowd. We'll present the forms. Pretty backwards, so. Okay. All right, start with August 9th. I got one. Anybody have any comments on August 9th? Someone want to make a motion to approve August 9th meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the August 9th, 2022 meeting minutes.
Second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next up is August 23rd. Any questions or comments about that?
Make a motion to accept the meeting minutes as printed for September 13th.
August 23rd.
August 23rd. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll second August 23rd.
We'll just talk about, no, you,
I'll make a motion that we accept the meeting minutes as printed from August 23rd, 2023.
no, you can second.
I'll second August 23rd.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next up is September 6th.
I'll make a motion to approve September 6th, 2022.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. All right. September 23rd.
I mean 13th.
13.
I'm sorry, September 13th, yep.
I have some comments on that one. The first one, SC 0840555, there was, I believe that was the date we had the peer reviewer here, Mr. Manglo.
Yep.
One of the things that we talked about is the fact that we were approving the ORAD, but that there was the conditions that they would look for if they file an NOI, that they had to look for whether there's fish in a pond or if it's a vernal pool, and also flagging the stream.
The intermittent stream.
The intermittent stream, again, all if they file an NOI. So if we could add that information to that section, that would be great.
Yeah, basically all the conditions we added to the overhead, right?
Yeah. And then the second thing is just, and this is just to make things easier for someone in the future to read, at the very end, it looks like everything that's written here is all under the notice of intent for 140, but it's actually separate. It's the fee list, notice of intent checklist, so maybe we can just change that to make that a little easier to read. But those are all my comments. So Tony, I don't know if you want me to just hand this over here.
Are you gonna hold off on that? We'll vote on those ones at the next meeting?
Yep.
Right, next. That's it, right?
Do we have the 21st? No. No, okay.
That was the last one, right?
Yep.
Because it's have extras, that's all.
You wanna do the correspondence first or the, order conditions?
Correspondence.
Where is it?
Are you two writing notes?
Yeah.
No.
Secrets don't make friends.
Listeners, secret?
It's okay. I can read your eyes. It was too cold.
Are we gonna say anything
Let's say tangent.
about Paul and the group? This is for 0 Summer Street. They want our signature for something?
I'll take a look at it after.
Okay.
Is that all the correspondence?
There's that one, there's another one, sorry.
Okay.
See. Okay, I thought they were reading, I wasn't ready. Oh, I wrote this. I've already looked at this one.
I feel like a pro athlete. It's awesome. What else? $100 a signature.
You guys wanna sign that?
Already heavy
Scribble all the names in here.
Always quicker.
Okay, what?
It's quicker.
Not tip, always quicker.
Very rarely do I have one in my hand.
Yeah.
No.
Trying to find it, I'm sorry.
Now I need you.
Let me know when you guys are ready to do the orders.
All
Yeah.
right, let's start, let's
Oh
go.
my God, I'm reading.
Let's go.
All right, ready?
No.
So A1, maybe 20 feet,
25 feet?
20,
Which one are we doing?
the only one, 140 Rockland.
140 Rockland,
25.
25 feet.
A2, A3, 4, 5,
I have my own.
6. What are we doing for B?
B1, B2, and B6. Nothing for C.
Yeah.
Anything for D. We have E.
What'd you say about E, Kathy?
No E. Oh, wait a
Wait,
second.
no, there's
Oh, wait a second, there is.
Should we do something for that rain garden?
Rain garden, I think we need,
We should do that.
How do we wanna,
if she could just put rain garden / wetland replication areas, that would work. You could just add the word, can you do that? Just add the words rain garden in there
Tony?
on D, I mean, sorry, on
E.
E1. E1,
E1, the wetland wetland replication / rain garden.
and then,
Proposed wetland application area of, how many square feet did he say it was?
can you tell us?
Yeah, he did, didn't he say 1,100?
Well,
The rain garden,
no, it was like, he had 2,563 on there. But we don't know.
right. We don't know what the area was that DEP was still listing as being open and never replicated.
So E1 to E6, what do you want to do with
Should we put that under special conditions instead of under replication?
Might keep it clean.
Yeah.
As soon as he gets back to us with the number, if that's still outstanding.
Well, they're calling it 2245.
Back to us.
But there isn't an outstanding number because we closed it.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, they got it as 2,245 square feet.
okay.
Huh? No, forget that, so nothing in E.
What are we doing with E? I'm sorry.
We'll just make special conditions for that rain garden replicate area.
Okay. No F.
Remember that number, 2245.
So no F.
I'm not getting it back.
G1,
Oh, I'm not getting it back.
all of G and 25 feet for
So
G5.
G5, yep.
All of G.
All of
G5 is gonna be 25 feet.
Anyway, no, nobody.
H2,
H4. H5.
yep. H6, all of it.
Yeah. H7.
7, all of it, right?
Yeah. H8.
H8. Yep, H9. I1.
I too,
I to accept D, take D off.
and then you're in special conditions.
Do we want to do anything for de-icing for snow?
Yeah.
For no salt product, it has to be,
Salt alternative.
yeah,
Since there's a replication area, do we want to put up a marker?
yeah, put one marker. How do we want to word that rain garden in lieu of replication?
Well, let's go back to that replication section, maybe.
Do you want me to get my handy dandy checklist?
No, then we'd have to vote on, well, you have it with you?
No.
Then we'd have to vote on it again, so.
Well, if we go back to the wetland replication plans, if we just, if we call it, instead of wetlands replication areas, call it the rain garden area for E1.
Yep.
And that's a good one.
Okay.
And then E2, we shouldn't be filling anything. Right? And then E4. And E5. And E6. You can just use,
Column S1, S, yeah. Take those and put them under special conditions as a rain garden instead of as a replication. And it's gonna be 2,245 square feet.
1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Yep.
and 6.
And 6.
Good.
So E7,
What do you want to say on E7 and particular numbers?
Yeah, 2,245 square feet. 2,245 square feet.
what about E8? There's two options.
I think you either pick 7 or 8, right? You don't do both.
Yeah, I was just wondering though, because one of them is, the first one gives you the opportunity for in the future they can disturb more wetlands, and the second one says no further alteration is permitted for any future
Yeah,
work.
so you're not disturbing any wetlands, they're adding to it basically.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, like, which one we pick.
I would go with E8, right?
E8, the first one or the
B.
second? A or B? B is stricter.
B, I think.
Because if they come back and they want to build the houses, they have to do an NOI for the houses.
Right.
They may need to cut into
That's right.
wetlands.
But if we do B, that covers it.
But
They do B, they can't do anything.
Right.
Without
I don't think they'd be doing anything over there when they build those houses anyways, that's the other side of the
Because
street.
this one says, at the discretion of the commission be disturbed in
Yeah.
future work, but this one says move for alteration for any future.
So I see what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah,
So my question is, which one?
I would go with the second, B, no further alteration, the second one on E8.
Instead of 7?
Yeah,
Yep.
Oh, no,
because I think there's been so much disturbance there already.
Okay. E9.
Yes. Wetland species, because they didn't specify.
Yeah, but they
what-
already, they're putting it where the rain garden is, they're not,
Right, but they didn't specify the rain garden plans, what they were going to be.
No, I looked at
Is
it.
it-
It was good.
Okay.
It looked good to me. They had a whole bunch. She had like 200 and, was it 25 or
It was a lot
254?
of quantity.
yeah.
Yeah,
It
it
was
was a
big
huge
quantity.
number, and it was, no trees, but basically shrubs, then herbaceous plants, and at the very bottom of it, grasses.
Okay.
And they all look neat.
We just gotta make sure it's worded as, in special conditions, as a rain garden, not as a replication area, because we don't want it to come back
Correct.
like the 2005 one.
And
There.
going back to E8, that's kind of my question on that. They've talked about, they're fairly certain that the houses are gonna be where they are. My concern is the amount of ledge that's in that property. If they need to move it 10 feet one way or the other, we're obviously gonna want them to replicate, but if we pigeonhole them into E8, that second area, that's gonna negate everything that we're doing. We're gonna start from square one. As opposed to, they'll have the ability to come back and tell us what they need to disturb, and then we have the opportunity to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
I know the site's been disturbed, but we also settled those with those other two votes.
Yeah.
I would just hate to see us literally come back and eat crow saying, okay, well, we said you can't do it, but now we're gonna let you do it, because you're being reasonable about it, you know what I mean? Just a thought. For the board to discuss.
I'm fine with giving them the option, because they're gonna have to come before us, or whoever is on the board at that time.
To build those houses.
Right.
I don't think that they're going to hit any wetlands.
They may hit the riverfront, but I don't think they're gonna hit the wetlands.
We can, that's why if we do it this way, we can discuss that when those projects come before us.
Yeah. And if, I think it was just one of the houses.
That lower property.
Right.
In the event of, but there was a lot of ledge, and that's my concern, is if they need to
Yeah.
move it or turn it a little bit because of the ledge, when they get in there and start looking at it, we're gonna have to, we'll basically be starting over.
Well, I wouldn't say start over, I would just focus on, we're already having them fill in a certain amount. We don't know if it's a one-to-one replication that we're asking them to do in the first place, but I think it's pretty unlikely that they are gonna fill in any wetlands for that one house. So I'm fine with being flexible with the first one. I doubt that they're gonna need to, I don't think that they're gonna really encroach, sorry, thank you, encroach on any wetlands with that house. I could be wrong. But let's,
I think it'll make it an easier process for us down the road as well as then if we go.
For everybody.
For everybody, for E8.
So for E8, it's the second blank will be 5,000 minus the 2,200, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
You get that?
Mm-hmm.
Will be,
did we get E10, E9?
I didn't even do that.
There's something that was on that chair.
And where?
But I think Tony would be interested in.
No, special permit, but accessory apartment, residential permit. Site prep on. I think it's not this one. There's something.
then we're adding E10?
Yep.
The special conditions?
We had E9, right?
Yep.
9 times 20, that's 45.
I think that's everything, right? Make sure it's worded as rain garden, not replication. Yep. Somebody want to make a motion to approve the order of conditions for 140 Rockland Street?
I'll make a motion to approve the order of conditions for 140 Rockland Street.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Pass it down.
That's good.
Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion
No,
to
we're
adjourn.
not adjourning yet. Today is a day of celebration.
It's not on the agenda.
It's impromptu, I can do it. I just brought in a cake because I thought we should celebrate that Lynn has completed her certification program with the MACC. And I think the cake is over there down by you. Dan, can you grab that cake?
I think we can close the hearing.
And that would-
I saw a cake. You get
Motion to adjourn is on the table.
They have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.